afternoon. This is All About Bitcoin, a show dedicated to all things questions and markets related to Bitcoin, little b for the currency, and Bitcoin, big B for the network. A collective journey to understand, apply, and use this innovation, all Bitcoin, all the time. I'm your host, Christine Lee. Checking in on Bitcoin right now, the CoinDesk Bitcoin price XBX index is currently trading above $58,000. The crypto markets are up and Bitcoin is up just about 4% over the past 24 hours. The most reliable reference prices for institutions since 2014 are now published under the CoinDesk brand, trusted globally as the leader in crypto news, events, and data.
The chart of the day is brought to you by Crypto.com, the world's fastest growing crypto app.
All right, so Bitcoin has been trading sideways throughout the week, continuing a week-long consolidation in the range of 52,000 to 59,000, even as gold rallied to three-month highs. Although the short-term trend is improving, traders have been quick to take profits on the rallies. Slowing momentum is typical of a consolidation phase, which suggests traders are taking a breather following a nearly twofold price increase in BTC over the past year. Bitcoin remains above the 100-period moving average on the 4-hour chart seen and daily chart seen below. That indicates an improving short-term trend, albeit with resistance at around $58,000, where we're at right now. BTC has retraced about 50% of the April 14th sell-off from an all-time high of about just under $65,000. The relative strength indicator is neutral across short-term charts and has receded from extreme overbought levels on the long-term weekly chart, seen in the bottom chart below. Initial support is seen at around 54,000 and then at 52,000, which is limited profit taking during the past week. And joining me to discuss BTC price and other Bitcoin news is our Week in Review panel. CoinDesk Managing Editor of Technology, Christie Harkin in Toronto, Managing Editor of Markets, Brad Keoun in Austin, and Director of Data and Indexes, Galen Moore in Boston. Welcome, everyone.
Hello.
Thanks, Christine.
Yeah, good to have my weekend review panel on this beautiful Friday. So, Brad, tell us about what's going on. Yes. Brad, tell us what's going on in the markets. We see the crypto markets perking up right now. Bitcoin is up along with U.S. stocks. Is that a correlation?
You know, it's interesting because Bitcoin has this week very much traded in sync with some of the swings you've seen in the traditional stock market. When Janet Yellen came out and made those comments that freaked everybody out on Tuesday about higher interest rates, then Bitcoin tanked as low as $53,000. Yeah, exactly. And then, you know, she backpedaled on those comments and stocks bounced right back and Bitcoin did too. And over the course of the week, I was just looking, we were about 57,000 this time last week, and we're now about 58,000. So, you know, after kind of a week of going, you know, in various directions, here we are right back where we were this time last week.
Yeah, you can see those remarks. She made them a huge red candle. And then when she kind of backed away, we saw a bit of a recovery there. Also, the options market saw a bit of a flippening between BTC and ETH. What can you tell us about that?
Well, you know, crypto analysts are saying that we're in what is known in crypto markets as the alt season, where suddenly, you know, it's not Bitcoin that takes center stage, but it is everything else. You know, we've seen lots of the Ethereum competitor tokens do really well, or BNB, which is an exchange token affiliated with Binance. The biggest crypto exchange has done really well this year. But yeah, lately we've really seen Ether take off and just pushing to all-time high prices several times this week. And traders are using the options market to take kind of crazy bets on really big price gains, like $8,000 versus where we are now.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of big bets, Goldman has a bunch of news coming out. They're entering the crypto game. They're opening up their crypto trading desk. They unveiled their team, as well as they are offering Bitcoin derivatives to investors. Galen, what can you tell us about that?
Christine, I think it comes down to this sort of interesting trickle of evidence of institutional interest in crypto. It's less a trickle than more of a kind of a steady flow at this point. It seems like every week there's another bit of news of a product by a firm like Goldman, one of the large banks or one of the large asset managers coming out with some kind of product for their clients. And it just, to me, is a sign of institutional adoption continuing. These non-deliverable forwards that Goldman announced are not the kind of thing that's likely to glean a lot of publicity, but I think it certainly indicates that there's a client demand that's driving that type of activity.
What kind of corporate news have we been seeing? I mean, I'm seeing Square's Cash App has generated $3.5 billion in Bitcoin revenue in the first quarter of the year, and NYDIG also is making some moves.
Yeah, well, actually, Square is interesting because the earnings news sort of shows the other side of the coin in the market right now. I think we're at a point where there's some question as to what will the continued kind of driver of market activity be. Is it a retail-driven market or is it an institutionally driven market? I think evidence is pretty clear that it's been retail-driven, at least in some areas. The Dogecoin hitting 69 cents earlier this week, I'm pretty sure that's not an indicator of institutional activity. Ethereum Classic as well, all-time high at almost $175,000. $175 yesterday afternoon. Those are, I think, and then you see these earnings numbers coming out from some of the retail-oriented platforms. And to me, it just, it indicates that we're still in this kind of retail-driven climate. But if the institutional momentum begins to pick up, that may actually have a bigger impact on price of assets like Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just want to mention NYDIG. They're hiring the Bridgewater's associate CFO onto their team. Mm-hmm. He's leaving the largest hedge fund in the world, and Ray Dalio is being left behind for a crypto firm. And they're foreseeing that hundreds of U.S. banks will start offering crypto buy, sell, and hold services for their clients in their existing U.S. accounts, and also as well, Galaxy Digital buying BitGo. There's a lot of M&A activity in space, but yeah,
the BitGo acquisition I think is the biggest in crypto, right? That's big news.
Mm-hmm. Yep, definitely. But turning to the tech news on how the Bitcoin network is developing, Marathon has mined a Bitcoin block deemed fully compliant with U.S. regulations, and this is Christie's area. They've effectively censored transactions in the process and created the first so-called cleaned block. So much for Bitcoin being censorship resistant. This raises so many questions, doesn't it, Christie?
It raises a lot of questions, but not even so much maybe the ones that you're thinking. A lot of the miners that we've talked to, sort of, giving no names, they all think it's kind of ridiculous. The practice of censoring transactions, sanctioned or otherwise, is really a big debatable topic within the Bitcoin community. I mean, it was designed to facilitate permissionless and censorship resistant transfers of value. So something like what Marathon says that they're doing is against the Bitcoin ethos. On the other hand, it also doesn't really work the way they think it works. So what they're doing is they are using a program that will block addresses from, they'll block transactions from addresses that are on the OFAC list of sanctioned addresses and sanctioned countries. But what they can't do really is stop those kind of transactions from happening anyway. They'll just go to the next block. They are creating security for the blocks that were mined before those blocks, which contain transactions that probably were not ones that they would want on there. So the thing is, the blockchain is still going to keep on ticking. It's going to keep on going. And it has raised a lot of questions in terms of, are they actually not including transactions because you don't know where those Bitcoins came from down the road or farther back in the history. And what I love right now is the way the Bitcoin community is reacting to it. They're calling them out. They're also, this was fantastic. I think there's a bit of a movement to dust the Marathon wallet with microtransactions from Iranian addresses. So their wallet is now going to be tainted. Like, it's just classic Bitcoin. And I think the community is going to, in a way, band together and figure this out. And they're calling it out as a sort of a publicity stunt.
Mm-hmm. And at the same time, there was a Bitcoin adjustment over the week, right?
Oh yeah, it happened. We knew it was coming, and it went. It did adjust as we knew, and in fact, the block that Marathon mined was mined super fast. So I guess the difficulty adjustment maybe helped in that regard as well.
All right. We're going to take a break there, but coming up, more BTC discussion with our CoinDesk panel.
We are witnessing the greatest paradigm shift in finance in modern history. Join thousands of newsmakers and influencers talking the future of money in a live virtual experience. Consensus by CoinDesk. Register today.
Welcome back. Looking ahead to next week for BTC, Brad, what can you tell us about anything that you're looking at in the markets? Any sense of what direction we may be going? If we might have a breakout above 60,000, that's what everyone wants to know.
Well, to Galen's point, the big driver of Bitcoin is still, big picture is the institutional adoption story. Big money coming in from Wall Street. And so that's going to be the big driver, in terms of within the crypto markets. Like I said, we're in this altcoin season. And, every time you get into this altcoin season, there's some speculation on, is this time different? Is Bitcoin going to come back? It usually does. It always has before it, regained the leadership. But, that's the expectation at some point. The altcoin rally, Ether, everything like that people will start to take profits and they'll rotate back into Bitcoin, and that would take Bitcoin prices higher. But we're not seeing that, that warm spring yet for Bitcoin. So, but anyway, analysts saying if we go above 60,000, we're here at 58. If we go above 60, we may make another run towards that all-time high of around 65, or if we go lower, we could see 53 again.
Yeah, and I've heard many predictions of 100,000 by the summer, so we'll see about that. Christie, also, a lot of people are looking forward to Saturday Night Live. Elon Musk will be hosting, and he's the father of Doge, so we're looking at the price of Doge. And what does that mean, to the price of BTC at the same time?
Yeah. He's not so much the father of Doge as the godfather at the moment. I think he's calling himself the CEO of Doge.
Uncle of Doge, maybe.
As far as the price of Bitcoin is concerned, whatever. That's not gonna. It doesn't have an effect on the price so much of Bitcoin. What is interesting about this, though, is that all of the hype that's happening around Dogecoin is getting people interested in crypto, and that's good. On the other hand, there are a lot of other sides to it that I think that new people to Bitcoin need to make sure that they're being careful, not new to Bitcoin, but new to crypto and Dogecoin, really should be taking into consideration before they start sinking money into it. And I'm not here to diss Dogecoin or anything like that. I think it's adorable. But despite its popularity and soaring price and celebrity endorsements, there are risks associated with it. One of them, I think, as somebody who looks at the tech, is the lack of tech development. it was created, like Bitcoin, a lot of volunteers working on it, but not in the case of Bitcoin, a lot of volunteers. You got a few people who are maintaining the code, not that many, infrequently. Compared to Bitcoin, hardly any at all. The security of the network isn't nearly as robust as what you'll find on Bitcoin. And the amount of money concentrated into the amount of Dogecoin concentrated in very few wallets has, I think, a really detrimental outlook for its own price, because all it would take is one big whale to dump their bags, and you're going to see a massive price dump. That is not the case with Bitcoin, where it's much more spread out that way. And I think that it's fun to play with, but as you'll read coming ahead this weekend on CoinDesk, there are some really good articles that explain you need to be doing your research, never put in more than you can afford to lose, and be prepared for things to go south. So really buyer beware, especially when it comes to a meme coin. If it's started as a joke, it could very well end as a joke.
Yeah. Elon Musk, he's done very good things for Bitcoin in terms of Tesla buying $1.5 billion and putting a Bitcoin on their balance sheet. But his praise of Doge is really confusing people, I think, and many don't realize that it's a joke. I get so many questions on Doge, and it just has no fundamentals. But Galen, on the other hand, what are you looking ahead for? What are you looking forward to in the week ahead?
I think, same thing we've been talking about here is when do we see a sense of kind of a bit of regime change for Bitcoin? Are we going to sort of stay in this band that Bitcoin's been in terms of price, or do we enter a new phase of the market? I think what happens with assets like, Doge or Ether Classic, interesting to watch week to week, but really what's fundamental here in the market is what's happening with Ethereum. Continue to be astonished by the run that Ethereum has put up so far this year. Was looking at a table going back through to this time last year, pulling together some sample data for a potential client, and just was like, wait a minute, that's a $200 number there. It's kind of, it's funny how these things sort of sink in and you realize how fast things have changed. And so, I think, can we continue to see Ether go on the run that it's been on? Will it cool down? That's a signal that maybe might tell you kind of whether we're entering a different phase with Bitcoin or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Don't blink or you might miss it. All right. Thanks, folks, for joining us for joining me this afternoon. Thank you, Brad, Christie, and Galen. That was our CoinDesk Week in Review panel. And that's it for All About Bitcoin. I'm your host, Christine Lee. We'll do it all over again on Monday at 3 p.m. Also join me Monday morning at 9 a.m. in New York for First Mover, your first look at the day's global crypto news headlines. You're watching CoinDesk TV.